Hello, everyone. My name is Mohan Ma. I'm the moderator of the day. On behalf of FISCO, the Financial Blockchain Shenzhen Consortium, I'm pleased to welcome you virtually to our very first live stream conference. The topic of today is financial digitalization and fintech evolution in the wake of COVID-19. This conference is collaboratively organized by Financial Blockchain Shenzhen Consortium, Singapore FinTech Association, FinTech Association of Hong Kong, and Shenzhen FinTech Association, supported by China-Singapore FinTech Alliance. To our dear audience, thank you all for joining us. I hope all the people joining us today are safe and healthy. Now we're getting started. It's often said that crisis accelerates history, forcing to change what was inevitable before but necessary now. The magnitude of COVID-19 is such a moment. It presents challenges that touch many areas of our life, our community, and the companies we work with. All of us around the world are sharing a sense of vulnerability, physically, socially, and economically. As COVID-19 sweeps the world and disrupts the way we interact and conduct business, a conference that focuses on many ways that fintech could be used and to confront threats that caused by COVID-19 is greatly needed. One of our association's responsibilities is to promote synergy and collaboration for fintech-based financial application in business scenarios. That's why in today's conference, we will hear from senior leaders from leading companies in China to illustrate how has fintech contributed to overcome difficulties in this complex, rapid evolving situation, as well as their invasion of financial digitalization and fintech evolution in the post-COVID-19 world. To do so, I'm joined by some excellent guests from different divisions of the financial service industry, including fintech empowered institution, technology solution provider, and professional service consulting firm. The collection of all these ideas today are gonna help drive the conversation forward. Now I'm going to turn on some cameras. So we have Mr. Henry Ma, Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer of WeBank, China's first digital bank. How are you, Mr. Henry?
Hello, Mohan. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now we also have Mr. KT Chen. He is the Chief Digital Transformation Officer of Global Financial Service Division at Huawei, the leading information and communication technology solution provider. Actually, before Huawei, Mr. Chen used to serve as CIO at one of China's most successful commercial banks in digital transformation. So we're really looking forward to hear a lot of his experiences from both the tech solution provider perspective and the conventional banking perspective. How are you, Mr. Chen?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. And it's my pleasure to join this conference. Thanks.
Yeah, we're very glad you're here. Now we have Mr. Dennis Gao, the lead partner of Southern China Management Consulting at KPMG. How are you, Mr. Gao?
Hello, Katie. Hello, everyone.
Thank you all for joining us. I actually realized our conference today is bringing comprehensive perspectives, not only because our speakers are bringing insights from different aspects of the financial service market, but also geographically, our guests are originally from China mainland, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. That's why I'd like to express my gratitude to all the speakers again. We know that you guys are the most busy people right now. We're very grateful for you to join us. Now I'm going to turn off some cameras for our next session. In the meantime, to our audience, you are going to see 3 sessions today. The first is a virtual agreement signing ceremony between FISCO and SFA. Follow that, we're going to have individual speeches by our VIP guest speakers. And last, we will be completing today with a brief panel discussion for all the guests to share challenges and experiences with respect to financial digitalization and fintech evolution. Now, I'd like to transition to our first session. I'm very privileged to announce that FISCO, the Financial Blockchain Shenzhen Consortium, and SFA, Singapore FinTech Association, are going to establish a strategic partnership today in this conference. This partnership is meant to enhance the cross-border FinTech collaboration between Shenzhen and Singapore. Here we have Mr. Chai-Hok Lai, President of SFA. How are you, Mr. Lai?
Hello, good afternoon. Greetings from Singapore.
Thank you for joining us. And we also have Mr. Hui Yao, Deputy Secretary General from FISCO.
Hi, nice to meet you.
To all of our audience, we're going to witness this historical moment. FISCO and SFA are going to sign a memorandum understanding virtually in front of us. Now, Mr. Lai and Mr. Yao, please open your folder. Please sign your name on the MOU to make this honor strategic relationship happen. Please close your folder and show them to the audience. So I'm going to turn off my camera for 1 second, and then I'm going to take a screenshot of this historical moment. 3, 2, 1, click. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the successful signing of the agreement. Looking forward to the future collaboration. Now let's transition to next session. I'm going to turn off some cameras during the same time. I'd like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Henry Ma from WeBank. Mr. Ma oversees strategic planning and development of FinTech business at WeBank. Today, he's going to talk about, as a digital bank, WeBank's response to COVID-19. Mr. Henry, I think I'm turning on your camera and speaker at the moment. Feel free to share your screen.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Wuhan, can you see the screen now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, everyone. Really my honor. So let me begin by saying that I'm extremely honored to really take part in this online event being put together by FISCO together with the FinTech associations of Singapore, Hong Kong, and Shenzhen. It's probably the very first time we see such form of collaborations among the 3 Asian FinTech hubs, and I really look forward to more and also other forms of collaborations among these FinTech hotspots in our region down the road. The COVID-19 pandemic is truly a black swan event for the world, and it poses great challenges to both our society and our economy, and pretty much caught everyone around the world unprepared. We see a lot of responsive measures across the world, and they vary. Some of them work very well, and some of them don't, to be frank, right? So nevertheless, I think it's a very important session for everyone to learn, and also a good moment for us to sit back and think about what the new normal is going to look like and how we are going to adapt. So in the next 20 minutes, I will share our perspectives at WeBank, which I hope will be able to offer some good insights for the audience today. For those of you not that familiar with WeBank, I would like to do a quick introduction. First of all, we are China's very first digital link bank. We are 30% owned by Tencent. That's how we got famous initially. We started our operation in 2014, and quite different from other traditional banks. We put a very strong emphasis on technology. If you look at the workforce, the makeup of our workforce, more than 56% of our workforce is actually in the engineering or data scientist space. So very, very strong emphasis on technology itself. And as of the end of 2015, we already serve a very substantial market in China, with actually more than 200 million individual customers and more than 90,000 micro SME, the so-called small, medium-sized enterprises in China. We are also among the top banks in China in terms of our processing capabilities. In fact, in one of our busiest days in 2019, we processed more than 574 million of transactions, financial transactions in a single day. As a benchmark, if you compare that to other major banks in China, ICBC, probably the largest bank in China and also the largest bank in the world, one of the published number that they recently give out to the public is they process around 700 million transactions on average in a day. So we are getting very, very close indeed. From its very outset, WeBank is committed in offering responsible and inclusive financial services to the market. We actually targeted our service and offerings to the unbanked and underbanked segment of the market, which is exactly the part of the market getting the most hit under the COVID-19 pandemic. We highly leverage technology to provide liquidity to the blue-collar working class, micro SMEs with high efficiency. As a matter of fact, I think efficiency is actually the very important keyword here. As we can see from examples in other regions of the world, most of the time, it's really not how big the relief package that you offer to the market, but how quickly you can actually deliver the money into the hands of those who need them the most. We also maintain very high focus on small ticket size business. In fact, it is to our belief that you want to offer just sufficient liquidity or just adequate liquidity to the business owner to get their own business going, to keep the lights on. In fact, a lot of companies might not need a whole lot for survival. On the contrary, if you offer these small business owners too big a lump sum, it could well become a golden parachute for them, as they may actually decide to give up altogether and use the money that they draw down to invest in the stock market or buy some real estates, which would defeat the purpose and turns out creating asset bubbles in some of the places, instead of maintaining employment and also helping out the real economy. So I think another very important keyword here to remember is appropriate. The appropriateness of financial services is very important here. And we also realized this new type of model together with many partners, ecosystem partners, like we work with a lot of internet platforms, for example, WeChat and QQ, part of the social media platform offered by Tencent, our major shareholder. These platforms, they have large amount of users and also very rich data set and also have the traffic. And also on the other hand, we work with a large number of financial institutions who understand risk and also have very good access to low-cost capital. We'll elaborate a little bit more in the next few pages on our business model itself. But in order to enable our customer to continue with the business, we have to ensure our own business continuity in the first place. And we achieve this through a few very important practices. First of all, we started to build our virtual desktop infrastructure since 2 years ago to fully enable our staff to dial in and work from remote without sacrificing our security requirements. As a bank, we have very high level of security requirement for our own operation. In fact, this VDI, the virtual desktop infrastructure, has been built with the help of Huawei. Mr. Chen today is representing Huawei to attend the event as well. So I would like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to Mr. Chen and Huawei for their help of building up, helping us to build the VDI infrastructure. So as a result, our employees were able to perform the normal day-to-day work, like writing codes, doing testing, and even deploying new products onto production at the very peak of the outbreak. On a day-to-day basis, we have more than 5,000 VDI instances in operation, basically supporting the day-to-day work of our technology, operation, and even our call center staff. Secondly, the peak of the outbreak actually happened during Chinese New Year. It is a time when most of our staff were away from Shenzhen, and they didn't necessarily have access to computers in the vacation spots or in their hometowns. So what we did is we actually shipped computers for them to use, laptop computers to them. At the time, during the very peak of the outbreak, the logistic network in China remains highly operational, even when the whole country is in lockdown mode. So this is also a very important prerequisite for this to happen. Thirdly, we also leverage our own technology to build a blockchain-based health book system and ask our employees to report their health status on a daily basis. And based on the rules, the business rules that we have defined, the system decides whether an employee can actually safely come back to the office or required to stay for home quarantine. This ensures that we have a very safe workplace and also offer high level of confidence for our employees for them to decide to come back to the office after the lockdown requirement is lifted. And then our fully digital model allows us to serve our customer at a time when face-to-face interactions are no longer possible due to the social distancing requirement and the quarantine requirements. The two flagship products that we offer, Weilidai for our consumers and Weilidai for micro SMEs, are launched in the market in the year 2015 and 2017, respectively. So our customers are already very familiar with the fully online features offered by these products. Only that these features are proven to be so powerful and necessary when we got hit unexpectedly by COVID-19. As you can see from the figures up there in our presentation, the consumer loan that we offer to the market has a very, very small ticket size, ranging from 500 to 300,000 RMB, and it's being delivered to the hands of our customer in a very, very high and responsive way. Time to determine a credit line takes less than 5 seconds. And for our customer to do a drawdown, within a minute, the fund will be deposited into their bank account. And for SME loan, it's very similar. It's fully collateral free and also a very dynamic credit line up to 3 million RMB. Again, application for the loan only takes minutes. So all these product features are fully in line with the design principles that we hold about like doing small ticket size business and also offering very quick response and streamlined experience to our customers. And to further relieve the stress introduced due to COVID-19, we offer measures such as reduction of loan interest, offering loan extension, and also deferral of payment for those customers who need them. And also we provide very special priority treatment to customers based on their industry and also their geographical location, etc. On page 3, we talk about the fact that our open banking business model entails tight collaboration with ecosystem partners. Once again, in our practice to support a swift economic recovery after COVID-19, during COVID-19, the open banking model was found to be very handy and effective. One such example is the case that we work with one of the partners of ours, Wanda Group, who is one of the leading commercial real estate developers in China. And by incorporating the business data of the tenants, like the transactional data, the rental contracts data, etc., we are able to issue liquidity loans to the retail merchants who otherwise wouldn't be able to gain access to a credit facility at other major banks. And in this particular example, we also fully demonstrated another very unique capabilities of ours, namely our agility. We were able to deliver an end-to-end solution from product ideation to production in only 10 days. So in fact, a quick response is imperative to address the needs of this particular market, as this is essentially a matter of life and death for a lot of the small merchants if they are not provided with sufficient liquidity, which could also imply a very catastrophic chain reaction and disrupt the whole supply chain if it didn't get handled properly in time. So speed is also of very high essence here. As mentioned earlier in my presentation, we also work with a large number of small, medium-sized banks in China, offering them our FinTech capabilities. For example, we offer them the SME lending and also supply chain finance solutions as a SaaS solution for them. These partner banks also were able to observe the benefits of a full digital operation under the outbreak and were able to offer financial services to their customer pretty much uninterrupted. And in other very typical use case, our partner banks' relationship managers empowered by the SaaS-based solutions that we provide, we're able to offer financial services and product recommendations, and even help their own customers to complete transactions online without any face-to-face interaction. So by highly leveraging technology, we have apparently built a highly resilient digital business model and seems to have got us through, at least partly, through this very difficult period of time. So the bigger question is digitalization going to offer solution for bigger challenges ahead of us post-COVID-19? In fact, even before COVID-19, the vision of our world is slowly happening. COVID-19 only accelerates the process for sure. We already have a lot of talking around the end of globalization and also like very heated discussion around decoupling, etc. But despite all these gloomy outlooks as being viewed by many, we at WeBank, we still hold the point of view that the trend of digitalization may actually offer some alternate routes to enable collaborations in multiple forms simultaneously, be it globalized, regionalized, or localized. So at WeBank, we have actually proposed what we call the 3 opens approach: open platform, open innovation, and open collaboration, as a way for us to navigate through the new normal. First of all, open platform. As a digital bank, we open up our banking capabilities through our open platform to build business partnerships with a large number of partners, creating a very diversified ecosystem around ourselves and making full use of our innovations around the so-called ABCD of FinTech: artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud computing, and big data. This is in fact not too different to a lot of the open banking initiatives kicked off in other parts of the world. But we put particular emphasis on the use of new technologies to create the next generation digital banking experience. Secondly is the open innovation part. We concurrently open source a lot of our technological capabilities as part of our open innovation initiative, trying to encourage wider adoption of leading edge technologies and digital business model in our own and also other regions. In fact, we announced the open source strategy in 2019, and we have been able to generate some very good traction since the announcement of this strategy. And we have seen very, very positive feedbacks and also high level of participation from the open source communities on a handful of products that we have released to the market so far. So by doing open source, we strongly believe that this is the way to really drive the adoption of the leading edge technologies in our own and also other markets. At the same time, we also believe that the spillover of FinTech capabilities to other industries will create more cross-industry collaboration opportunities, and eventually also new forms of collaborations among different ecosystems as well. This is what we term as the open collaboration. A good example is the blockchain and distributed ID technologies that we have built, which initially was meant to address the business needs in our own use cases in the financial industries. But because of COVID-19, these same technologies have been applied to build a health code system for our own use in our own premises. And also in recent weeks, the same technologies were used to create a health code conversion platform for Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau Greater Bay Area, with the objective to enable the flow of people in the region through data sharing, while at the same time being able to preserve the data privacy across different territories. So spillover of FinTech capabilities, we believe, will be a very, very important foundation for open collaboration. This pretty much wraps up my presentation for today. I understand situations in other parts of the world are likely to be different. But I sincerely hope that some of the ideas and the practices that we share today will be able to offer insights for you to come up with the right approach to tackle the challenges you face in your own market. And I strongly believe that financial services that are both inclusive and responsive will have a very significant role to play and contribute to the recovery of the world's economy post-COVID-19. Thank you very much. Mohan, I think you have to turn on your mic.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ma. For everyone listening, you get a good sense of how WeBank leverages its agile capability to provide uninterrupted services to the broader public in response to COVID-19. Thank you very much again. So, all right, let's move on to our second guest speaker. As a well-respected expert in financial service and financial technology integration, Mr. Chen has gained extensive experience from multiple leading companies. Today, he will talk about risks and opportunities from the post-pandemic new normal. Mr. Chen, your camera is on. Feel free to share your slide.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I will I share my screen, all right? And yeah, okay. Okay, here, I think it's my pleasure to have this opportunity to share some idea and some lesson and the sort of things. Since pandemic, we as a Huawei, we are solution provider. So I've been conduct more than 60 conference to discuss the some idea and what they are doing around the world. Most of them bank CTO, right, in technology, or some in business side, right? So today I'm going to share some of our lesson and our observation, right? Okay, in this page, basically what I'm going to say is, let me move this out. Okay, so there are some stage. Actually, I think the pandemic is start from China, Wuhan, right, in the January. So we will see that the whole process, what the pandemic's going on, in the early stage in January, and then February, March, April, until right now. So we can see usually they go this way. I think outbreak and contain. So every country have different kind of way, to contain the virus. Basically, the approach is to lock down the cities, right? And especially in China, sometimes is in certain district and or city or province. You can see that around the world, pretty much many similar about this one. So and then we start to realize, to understand how it's going on, right? So the virus this time is very. I think the virus is very tricky compared with the before the SARS, right? Because there are many infections without symptoms. So that means if you don't test, then you don't know, which one has been infected. So so you don't know how to preventing the virus to spread. So I think this is quite different with before. I think this pandemic is very unusual, right? So it's probably the first time we met before. We never met before. Right? So after we realize, we start to reopen the economic, right? So every country, every area, when they reopen, usually is by stage approach. Especially you can see that even in China, exactly the same way, from some essential industry. For example, bank is one of the essential industry. So during lockdown period time, it's pretty much partially open or only open. Most of the customer will access the financial services through online, right? And during the reopen stage, you will see that I think the government will control whole the open status stage and open the progress of the open stages, right? For example, right now in New York, you will see that they will start to in the stage 1. That means some essential and some basic life that people need. They will those kind of business will reopen. So even in China, you can see today the movie theater still closed, right? And the sports still closing. So I think this is the new situation that we face. Even the reopen, and we cannot just always stay on the reopen, right? So it's become the reopen is lasting for so much time, right? So we cannot foresee what's going on in the future. So I think in the March, I predict that it's going to be a kind of new normal. So you can see that our life always have some cluster infections. For example, recently in Beijing, right, and in Germany, right. Their factory in Germany, they have some cluster infections. So, that means we have to, live and stay with the virus all the time, right? So, every country is struggling to reopen the, cross-border communications. You see the flight. So, I think the airline company been rescued by most of the government is invest a lot of money into the airline company. Why? Because I think the border is still locked down, right? Even in reopen the cross border, people moving still. I think the first one will be domestic citizens to come back to his home country, right? That's the first one. And next stage will be probably try to open for the business traveler, and then for the other passengers. So we can see that the globalization actually been disrupted. So you can see the global supply chain has been disrupted, right? So for example, in the early stage, you can see in China, I think some manufacturing, they reopen, recover, start to production, right? The worker coming back to work. But unfortunately, the demand side, the market in Western Union, all right, for example, in United States, in Europe, but this market actually they are shut down, right? So you have supply, but you don't have demand. So what I'm going to say is globalization has been hit by this pandemic so serious. So we cannot see this will be 100% recover, very soon. So nobody knows what's going on. Anyway, it's become uneven recession, uneven recovery, and there we will face many uncertainties, right? So this is the new normal basically. So we can find this, all right? So okay, let me try. How can I move to next page? Oh, okay. Is there anything wrong that oh yeah, okay. This wow, it's pretty, very late. In this page, roughly we just summarize what the reaction, from the bank around the world. You can see left-hand side here, customer engage. This is the trend. Just like I think, lockdown outbreak. That means people will stay at home, right? So what they are doing for the daily life, essential life, buy grocery and buy essential products. You can see that they have to go through the online. And after reopen, they have to keep the social distance, face mask, temperature checking, right? And partially locked down. So I think, people do not like to hand over, actually things, or even the money notes, right? So I think customer engagement is significant changes. So if any bank, any financial institution, they already provide very good, online engagement platform or online engagement solution between their employee and their customer, then I think they would be very good, to still can perform their business as usual, right? So you can see, because I'm the I was the CIO in CMB. Actually, probably 6 years ago, we started to develop the mobile, office app, right? By, I think we can perform a lot of office work just through the mobile app. So you don't need to taking care about how is the employee, do not come to your office to work, right? And through this mobile app, then, we can, the banker can very simple and easy to engage to the customer through online. For example, you can chatting, you can, exchange the documentation, and you can, prepare the transaction format for your customer to, confirm and execute this transaction, right? So I think the engagement actually is changing a lot. For example, some of the bank in Singapore, right? They're using video conference to deal with wealth management, and I think their business is getting well. So online video conference, it's become a kind of new normal. How can a bank to leverage those kind of digital platform? They are going to be very well, right? So customer engagement is going to be a significant change since pandemic new normal, right? Another thing is their daily operation, because why they have to, make their, cost more efficient is just because everybody can foresee that the asset quality, here, the asset quality is going to be hit by this pandemic. As a banker, in the early stage, we can find the delinquency ratio of our credit card and consumer lending is going up. Why? Because people lose job. Around the world, some of the country even asking their bank to skip payment, right? For example, in the United States, the customer can phone the bank to asking for skip payment, maybe 3 or 6 months. How is the bank is doing react about this? If the customer asking skip payment, yeah, based on the regulation, you probably will, say yes. But ultimately, you are worried about how can they pay this back, right? So, for example, in Russia, the regulator asking the bank have to perform some credit relief. For example, probably 3 months you don't need to pay the mortgage. But what's going on this? 3 months later, if they don't pay, then what is that? So I think the bank have to change their application to meet the compliance requirement. But ultimately, they are very, very worried about their asset quality, right? So asset quality is quite big issues. If you look, most of the banks, they put a lot of money on the loan loss provision, right? So you can see most of the big bank from the United States, even in China and also Europe, right? So I think asset quality is going to be a very, very key issues to most of the bank. In the future, how can we using technology to resolve those kind of issues is very, very important. Another thing is daily operation, because people, using more online, right? Support more online. So, the bank have to optimize their channel services to the customer. I think the biggest channel of incumbent bank is branch services. So, to relocate the branch and or probably partially close some of the branch, or cut the branch spaces. It's going to be happening after post-pandemic. You can see that, or even in the offices space, right? So you can see most of the bank, they started thinking about that when their employee working from home and they rotate and they have to clean the office space, right? So they will, cut their office space to react this situation, right? So on the future, so you can see that there are so many uncertainties, that because we still don't know, how is the pandemic going on, and when can be fully reopened, when can come back to normal life just like before. So the regulator, they have many they come up many strategy, many regulations, right? And and even the government, they were thinking about that, how can they recover the economic, in the same time also contain the pandemic. Nobody knows this, right? So this year you will see that United States, they are going to have presidential election that will be impacted us. So I think pandemic bring up a lot of uncertainty, geopolitics, right? Global supply chain, being disrupted, right? And the global transportation being hit by this pandemic. So I think all of this will impact to the business or all the bank when they face the customer behavior change and the economics change, and the bank have to change their strategy to react all the situation, right? So I think this is my last page. Usually I would do this to describe to most of the bank. I try to summarize this to make them more simple and easy to understand, right? So left hand side, you can see that redesign the business continuous management program, right? So pandemic, nobody have playbook before. So usually you have to learn and and adapt to the new situation. For example, PPE, we never think about that, right? You do, face mask, temperature checking, social distance, and capacity restriction in your branch services. So you have to rethink about how you serve the customer, right? And next one is, pandemic, how to trace the infection peoples, right? So using big data, using mobile technology. That means behind the mobile technology, that means the internet, mobile networking. It's going to be very efficient, right? So big data, that means, especially when you see that, for example, in China, cross-border people move, then how can you verify that this passenger, this people is safe, right? So the example exactly same as cross-border move in the future, right? So I think the big data, exchange the data, and tracking the contact, it's going to become we have to adapt to a pandemic to develop those kind of solution. No matter you want you want it or you don't want it, because if you want to contain the virus, that's the way you have to do. Another thing is when I talk to exchange the idea with some banks, I think they are surprising that using mobile app to perform office work. So I think this is very efficient, basically in China. Right? So you can move lots of mobile work to read me email, and you can perform the task, redeem your expenditure, your HR, and everything. So you can move a lot of work to mobile. I think this is quite efficient because mobile is more, the mobile devices is going to be progress more to be advanced, right, in the future compared with desktop and also notebook, right? So I think redesign the journey. Many countries and many banks, they face the call center overwhelm because people using online. They have any issues, they call to their call center, right? Their call center, because pandemic, some of the CSR can come to work, right? Work from home, then there are some problems to do that. So it's very interesting. Actually, in China, we've been using social platform Engage to perform the call centers work. I think this is quite interesting. So around the world, some of the country, they have serious problems about this, right? Another thing is redesign the services journey. For example, wealth management, fraud detection, and lending, that sort of things. And when customer move to online, that means most of the bank will have to taking care about new risk management. For example, cybersecurity, right? And fraud detections, right? And scam. And also they have to come back to review their internal control, because if the employee work from home, you cannot see that they're using probably not the standard devices, right? They're using not the office networks, right? Some of the bank, then you have to refine your internal control playbooks, right? So for the digital transformation, I think most of the bank, they are on the schedule. Before they just talk, but when I exchange the idea to most of the bank, they already kick off, or they think about this is the things that they have to do, because they're facing the new situation, right? So I think digital transformation, that means you want to make your business become so agile. So super app architect, it's become so interesting to most of the banking, because they can empower the frontline, empower their partner to very quickly develop the services through the help from the banks, right? And another thing is digital payment. Why? Because pandemic, people do not want to hand over the real cash note, right? So I think the digital payment, most of the country, the central bank, they are thinking about to create a new digital payment ecosystem for their own. So I think this is going to be a new direction for most of the country, right? And so I think to be agile for the business and to gradually transform to the digital business, and also to do the cloud transformation, to build up a robust hybrid cloud. It's become the direction of most of the bank. On the right hand side, you can see that the new technology, because pandemic, we're heavily using mobile and the mobile network, right? So I think even in the future, the economic stimulus program will invest in the digital infrastructure. So they were moving the new technology. And so I think as a bank, as a FinTech company, or anyway, you can leverage those kind of new technology to do the innovation, right? So, this is a new opportunity. Another thing is, recently when I discussed with some of the bank and even internal in Huawei, that you can see that, because global supply chain has been disrupted, right? And geopolitics, right? Pandemic. So I think, rebuilding the supply chain is going to be, a new things to most of the, company or most of the, enterprise, right? So probably blockchain, through the new technology in the internet, I think probably, this is a good chance for the most of the business, they can rethink about this. So I think digital platform, digital environment is coming. So not just bank. I think most of the new innovation, the customer, the enterprise, the business, they will, very accelerated to online situation, to run the online businesses. So I think they create tremendously new opportunity for the FinTech company. Maybe you have some good chance, but unfortunately on this time, I think liquidity is the issues, right? But anyway, I don't know how is the funding for the FinTechs, but all I can see is it's going to be have many opportunities, even domestic, even new way to do business, right? Or to cooperate with the incumbent banks. So this is what I can think about this. Okay, so this is my data, my presentation. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chen. It's wonderful to learn about how can banks and other fintech institutions make this moment a turning point for real change. Thank you very much for your time. We're very grateful you're here. Now, I'm especially excited to introduce you our last speaker, Mr. Gao. He has more than 25 years of experience in management consulting and IT-related services. Mr. Gao specializes in the design and execution of corporate strategic advisory, enterprise digital transformation, and technology enablement. Today, he is going to give a panoramic view about fintech in China. Mr. Gao, your camera is on.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to share my screen. Hello,
yes,
everyone.
I can see that very well.
Yeah, and I have shared my screen now.
Yes, all good.
Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dennis Gao from KPMG, and I would like to send my regards to Fiscal for hosting this fantastic webinar. We suppose pandemic has gave us a very impact on our business and life. But I suppose in China, we definitely have a different situation with the whole world. We noticed there are a lot of opportunities for financial institutions. They are now focusing on some new digitalization and new normal. So I believe that everyone here must be somewhat familiar with a KPMG. And in fact, KPMG possesses eminent reputation, unique insights, and deep understanding of China's financial services industry. So today, we will focus on the FinTech. And together with my team, I have provided services to a wide range of clients in areas such as banking digital transformation and RegTech. In recent years, my team is also growing fast pace, and we have partnered with advanced financial institutions, such as the WeBank, to explore the future development of FinTech. In 2016, the Financial Stability Board first brought out the concept of FinTech. That is financial innovation driven by technology. Globally, KPMG has been releasing reports on FinTech since 2016, such as the Path of FinTech. Starting from 2017, KPMG China has also been releasing the China Leading FinTech 50. You can scan the QR code from this screen on the top of corner to get our 2019 report. In terms of the purpose of the report, when we were providing services to financial institutions, we found out that our clients possessed significant interests in rapid development of FinTech. As a result, we started to cover topics on FinTech, and our reports focus on evaluating FinTech companies on these 5 core dimensions. How does KPMG evaluate FinTech? I believe that an important aspect is that we insist on conducting detailed interviews with the founders of FinTech companies and to leverage our model, such as SIP, that is KPMG Start Insight platform, to understand their operating model and cost strengths. I have the confidence to say that we are authoritative on FinTech with unique insights. KPMG believes that the trend of FinTech changes over time. Only the thoroughly examined business models will pass the test of time. A typical example will be peer-to-peer lending, or P2P. Initially, P2P is a platform and the technology connecting the needs of person-to-person lending. Later on, because of the unregulated capital pools and the widespread defaults, that may result in systematic risks. Many P2P platforms collapsed and the rest were facing the scrutiny of regulatory agencies. In 2016, when the P2P industry was thriving, on another very famous FinTech list, half of the companies on the list were somewhat related to P2P. As of today, 60 of them have already collapsed. But taking a look at the KPMG list, only 10% of the companies had ties to P2P. Such result is inseparable with KPMG's professional insights and rigorous evaluation. The market as a whole possesses enormous demand for FinTech. Setbacks in specific sectors should not discourage the overall development trends. However, when we make investment decisions on selecting who to partner with, we must separate the truth from fiction. So why there is demand for FinTech? So that's what I think. The pandemic is now boosting FinTech. Let's take the banking sector as an example. Every year, we constantly have conversations with the executives of various banks to set up new projects or to solve problems. I once heard a very interesting point of view that banks are the technology companies with a banking license. Let's take a look at the first chart. We can clearly see that those top players in China's banking sector investment heavily in FinTech. In the first place, China Merchants Bank even put in almost 3.5% of total revenue in FinTech, while maintaining a 40% plus growth rate per year in FinTech investments. The Chinese government, on the other hand, clearly stated the official view of FinTech in their planning documents. Let's take a look at first, new engine for the transformation of financial services industry. Second, new channel for financial institutions to support real economy. Third, new opportunity for the rapid development of public finance. The last one, new tool for preventing and managing financial risks. Without a doubt, FinTech at this moment is the central topic for banking sector of China. On the supply side, who is providing FinTech services? There are basically four main categories. The first category is the FinTech affiliates of financial institutions. In fact, setting up FinTech affiliates has become a trend, starting from a China industry bank who made its first try in 2015. Now there has been more than 10 banks, FinTech affiliates, and more than 50 insurance ones were set up. Now we have some requests from big banks. They invite us to help them to set up new affiliates. The second category is the big internet platforms such as BAT in China. For the audiences who are not so familiar with the Chinese market, BAT in China is like a Google, Amazon, and Facebook in US. In later slides, you can better understand why internet giants played an important role in the development of FinTech. The third category is major tech corporations. China is leading the way in artificial intelligence and digitalization. These corps are commonly listed entities with strong capability to provide software and services for financial institutions traditionally. So tech companies will also impose their influence in the development of FinTech. The first category is the FinTech startups. They possess huge potential and better adaptive capacity of the market. KPMG has been keenly focused on these new FinTech players. Although different types of players currently fill the market, KPMG believes that they will be concentrated to the major players due to several reasons. First, FinTech reflects the massive effect, with bigger platforms demanding larger market shares. Second, big platforms establish FinTech affiliates, acquire startups, form innovation ecosystem internally. Major clients require barriers to entry. Small and medium-sized startups lack competitiveness. Though new companies have to face more challenges, we are still certain the innovation capabilities possessed by Chinese companies provide huge potential for the future development of FinTech. Everyone here may notice that classification in the previous slide lacks professional firms like consulting companies. In fact, we also contribute to the development of FinTech. Firstly, professional service firms are the evaluation of FinTech, as we discussed earlier, through detailed reports. Also, professional service firms provide lending services of FinTech. KPMG help FinTech companies revise their development strategy and offers lending solutions. Furthermore, professional service firms are promoting technology development of FinTech. In this year, KPMG and WeBank jointly launched the Optics model, which is a new capacity evaluation system for future banks. And as an old saying in China goes, take history as a mirror. You can understand the gains and loss. When we are trying to understand the future of FinTech, we must spend some time understanding the history of FinTech. The development of FinTech in China can be roughly divided into 3 stages: the initial stage, the unbounded stage, and the organized stage. An important mindset I would like you to remember. The 3 stages coincide with the development of information technology, especially the internet. We clearly remember the rise of the internet in later 90s and the boom of mobile internet in the recent past 10 years. Now the high-speed networks and other innovation approaching. FinTech can be traced back to online banking of 1998. I don't want to bother you with a lot of details, but a significant aspect is that payments leads the way. Even today, it still leads way of scenario finance. In the age of mobile internet, onto signature events such as the launch of Yuebo, tech companies attempted to enter the market of FinTech. 2 main reasons: incredible profit margin and the pressure from the venture capitals. On this stage, the application scenario of FinTech greatly expanded, including into the credit service market like P2P, local credit rating organizations, and the credit assisting services that aims at assisting bank. The overall capacity of the financial system establishes. FinTech in China enters a regulatory-driven era. We call it FinTech 2 era. In China, the biggest market factor still comes from regulation and policies, and the finance industry is under the great influence of the regulation. The timely follow-up and the interpretation of new policies is a prerequisite for all financial institutions. Other than bring changes and profit, FinTech accumulated systematic risks and intensified the imbalance of finance industry. In the past few years, regulatory agencies began to find out the nature of FinTech is finance, and technology serves as a tool. The operations of financial institutions will generate risks and must be regulated. And the popularity of technology also lowered the barrier of lawmaking. In the post-COVID era, there is going to be some noteworthy feature for FinTech. The post-COVID era raises the acceptance level of FinTech. More people in third and fourth tier cities in China, as well as seniors, apply FinTech in everyday payments and wealth management. Various policies mandate banks to further utilize FinTech to provide remote services, public finance, and etc. The 3-year development plan of FinTech, a landmark regulatory document, aims to complete 6 targets by 2021. The overall topic of today's webinar is in the wake of COVID-19. At the important transition period of FinTech in China, the pandemic brings influence indeed. China suffered the earliest outbreak of COVID-19, but also acted the earliest due to the strong actions that carried out by the Chinese government. Major economic indicators have improved since February, March, including indicators of production, consumption, and the stock market. So the long-term influence of the COVID-19 on finance industry may not be too harmful, especially in China. As of FinTech, opportunities and challenges coexist. In general, we believe that opportunity outweighs challenges. The pandemic promotes the demand of FinTech, and the financial institutions started to develop remote and non-contact services. Regulatory authority also encouraged to adapt to more FinTech solutions toward easing the pain of the pandemic impact. I would like to share our vision and outlook on FinTech future in China. Through what we have talked about, I believe everyone understands that FinTech is the fastest growing industry among others. There is nothing more constant than change. In terms of change, I would like to emphasize on 2 biggest trends of the future. One is the scale, and the other is the application scenario. In terms of the scale, guidelines issued by the regulatory authority indicated that the investment on FinTech should be comparable to 3% of total revenue. FinTech is a 100 billion business, but we estimate the scale to double in very short time. In the meantime, the need for FinTech talents will increase dramatically. Versatile talents will become a must, and all financial institutions will adapt to this new trend. They will be establishing their own FinTech affiliates or change the way of how their technology teams operate. In terms of the application scenario in the new era, or we call it intelligent Internet of everything, there are some technologies such as IoT, 5G, and others, or the 3 scenarios will have a huge implication of FinTech. The first one is digital currency. It induces a significant influence on taxation, credit assessment, and financial risks. The second is IoT, and it results in deep changes in credit management with more interconnected people and things. The third one is the new life of virtual world. It brings huge potential in application scenarios in a speedy world with blurred boundaries. That is all my sharing today. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Gao, for sharing. I loved your insight about FinTech future in China, also the importance in achieving the right balance between enabling FinTech and safeguarding the financial system. Thank you so much again. Next, we're transitioning to the next session, the virtual roundtable. I'd like to invite all the speakers to rejoin me for a virtual roundtable discussion. Just to make sure everyone's camera and speaker are on.
Cool.
All right, so the first question, I'd like to start with one insight mentioned by Mr. Henry Ma about regionalized collaboration and the collaboration business model. There's a saying that the post-COVID-19 world represents the end of an era. The world will transform from a unipolar world to a bipolar or multipolar world. My question is, as companies will have to navigate themselves through a new normal post-COVID-19, in what areas can companies collaborate? How will this affect the growth of FinTech or the collaboration of FinTech in your market? I'm going to do this by speaker order, so start with Mr. Ma.
Okay, thank you, Mohan. I think first of all, we have to go back a little bit to my presentation where I talk about the spillover effect of FinTech to other industries. I think that particular effect, the spillover effect, cannot be underestimated. For example, in financial services, we actually put a lot of emphasis on risk management, how you actually perform your KYC, know your customer requirements. This is actually quickly becoming not just a requirement for the financial industry, but also for other industries as well. Right? If you look at the travel industry, the healthcare industry, I mean, this is now the norm. Right? This is a basic requirement for them as well. So as a result, I think successes in the financial industry can also and should also be replicated to other industries. Also, another area to pay attention to is data privacy protection. Right? Nowadays, I think data is fastly becoming the core element for the new generation types of businesses. So data privacy protection for our own industry, in the financial world, is a fundamental requirement. Right? I think this is also another area that FinTech will be able to contribute. On one hand, leveraging FinTech to facilitate a higher efficiency of data exchange and also better user experience for our users, while at the same time being able to stay compliant with the various data privacy requirements in different jurisdictions. Right? A very good example, I think I have to use back the GBA health code example that we built for the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Bay Area. Right? Through the use of blockchain and distributed ID technologies, we are now able to try to re-enable all of people in the region, restoring the business activities back to normal as much as possible. Right. At the same time, we try to stay in compliance with the corresponding data privacy requirements in the different territories. So I think down the road, the trend of digitalization is only going to accelerate, and we will see even more opportunities collaborating with each other, with other partners in other industries and also in other regions. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Mohan.
Thank you. Mr. Chen, would you like to add on?
Yeah, I think, probably, digital transformation and, most of the industry will move to digital business model, right? That means I think the industry boundary is broad compared with before. So usually we are called this is incumbent bank, and this is a FinTech company, this is a retailer, this is a technology company. But recently you can see most of the technology company come from e-commerce company, from social platform, right? So from mobile phone manufacturing, so what I'm going to say is like, the industry boundary is broad. So there are create a lot of opportunity to most of the innovators, right? So financial industry is going to be very, very tough to facing the pandemic, basically, especially, your customer move to digital. That means, they will go through the app, for example, grocery shopping, right? So when they do the payment, right, they just through the shopping app, right? So I think most of the bank or any financial institution, they have to open up themselves, right? They have to provide the services through digital way to their customer, to adapt their change of their customers' behavior, right? So I think this is very, very important. So I think there are great opportunity. For example, just like what I mentioned, work from home. right? So that means you have to be using, conventional PC, or you can use a mobile app, right? So when you're chatting with your customer, right, engage to your customer, so you probably have to use a new technology to do that, right, compared with before, right? So what I'm going to say is, well, any FinTech company, they have to rethink about this, the new way to innovate. For example, how to using big data, right? I think the data is sitting in anywhere else, right? Because it's digital. It's always you have any data. If your customers, doing their regular life, right? Or your corporate customer, when they're doing the business, they all go to digital, right? So we have to. I think most of the incumbent banks, they feel the stress. They're keen to change. They're keen to adopt the new technology. Right now, I think recently when I talked to some bankers, they are not hesitated to leverage new technology to help their business, or improve their efficiency. So I think there's a new way to do that. So what I'm going to say is, anyway, incumbent banks, they also need new technology to help them to deal with the new technology, new situation, new business competition. For example, in China, basically you can see the digital payment. It's already existing, right? So people, I think the customer do not using cash anymore. So that means all the payment is already built in most of the people's daily activities. So as a bank, as a company, how you treat this, so that's going to have some very, very significant change about your business operation. Start from your daily, deposit taking, payment, lending, and your wealth management, for the corporate business as well. And on the other hand, to tackle I think the asset quality is going to be a very tough job to the bank. So you may have some chance to using big data, right? Because big data is very important, and also hot data to tracing your customer. Knows how to control and management your credit risk, and how to save your bank's capital for lending. So what I mean is, there are so many opportunities that for to open all the people you can to innovate, right? Okay, that's my idea. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gao, would you like to add on?
Okay, the COVID-19 pandemic increases our understanding of everything. I should focus on two things. First is that the everyday life of people can be carried out in a virtual mode, utilizing the internet, with non-contact services becoming increasingly popular. Seniors, especially in China, also accept such new lifestyle in a greater level. The second is that people are ready to accept online business to a large extent, and it will definitely induce greater impact on business models of the future, since better preparation for conducting online business will lead to better business competitiveness. All of this will bring more room of advancement of FinTech. The virtual lifestyle and the development of Internet of Everything will generate opportunities as well as challenges for FinTech. I suppose new products and new services will be upgrading in a very rapid pace. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I totally agree with your point. The spread of COVID-19 heightens the need to find a balance that can enable innovation and efficiency and reduce financial vulnerabilities while keeping risk in check. So the next question is more from an internal perspective. Before COVID-19, many companies have been in the process of digitalization. Since COVID-19 has accelerated its process of transformation, what makes companies' digitalization journey different from before? As of now, digitalization is no longer a revolution, it's an evolution. How do you inspire your clients or cultivate a new mindset and strategy to proceed with digitalization? Let's do, Mr. Chen, would you like to kick off?
Oh yeah, thank you very much. I think recently I taught this in many meetings to exchange idea with many banks or many customers, right? So I think digital transformation, that's two words. Actually, when you down to the ground to do the execution job, you will see that you don't know where to start, where to kick off, right? So, I just try to say that, usually I will show that for example, CMB's situation to most of the customer to say that what is the digital, business model. Ultimately, when you do digital transformation, you got to know what is the target, what is the goal, where is the direction you want to go. So that's the first one. And secondly, I just try to slice this into several initiatives. For example, in terms of how do you do innovation, right? How do you managing the risk, managing the budget to do that? How do you change your organization, right? How do you change your culture from step to step, right? And then from technology's point of view, how do you migrate your digital infrastructure, right? Your technology infrastructure as well, right? And then in the business side, there are several things that I encourage the bank or organization they can kick off. Like for example, start from branch journey, right? You redesign how to digitalize this one, and wealth management business, right? How can you digitalize this part? And for example, how can you digitalize your mobile working app, right? How can you make your employee to work from home very digitalized and perform, let your middle office and back office can do digital. Another things is, for example, how can you, leverage big data and artificial intelligence technology to step by step to build up your big data lake and start to empower your frontline. How can they generate the business values, right? Or then you can how can you using hot data? How can you by leveraging those big data and create a learning platform? And then you can design your artificial intelligence, machine learning, and embed in the front line to take action to serve the customer, something like that. For example, another thing is how can you digitalize your call center services, right? So I think there are many initiatives, very concrete, relate to the business oriented. For example, digital corporate lending. How can you using digital way to transform your conventional people manual operation for corporate lending, that sort of things. So I think my usual way is using more concrete business operation and let the customer more easy to understand what is the digitalization, and they can be step by step to move to that direction. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gao, would you like to go next? And we will come on to Mr. Ma.
Okay. I think everyone has saying that our society fully enters the digital and intelligent era. All parties of the society have acknowledged the notion of digital transformation. The nature of digital transformation indicates a business transformation in the digital era. KPMG has providing digital transformation for a great number of companies. The most significant feature for all of these engagements is how to let the operating department study and master digital technologies, and how to design and implement client-centric, platform-based new business model. I would like to stress that our clients or product service providers should understand the importance of the operating ecosystem. The future development will appear in a mode of cooperation. Any institutions must figure out a way to organize the operating ecosystem of its own. Thank you, that's all.
Okay, so my turn, I guess. COVID-19, I think, is indeed a very real stress test to a lot of the existing business models. And I mean, the way on how we safeguard our business continuity, do we have the proper ability to scale up and scale down elastically, the robustness of our business channels, how are we able to guarantee a swift user experience even at a difficult period of time? I think the performance of all the above during the COVID-19 is really a true reflection of the resilience of a company's core capabilities, right? And I think it's all around how you organize yourself, how you actually define your product and services, how you leverage technologies, how you manage your information and data. Do you have the right pool of talents, and how do you foster innovations? So I think Mr. Gao in his presentation also mentioned the fact that WeBank and KPMG jointly published the so-called optics report quite recently. And in this report, we actually comprehensively explain these capabilities and how it is related to the new digital transformation that a lot of companies are considering. So we believe that organizations should really pay very close attention on how to upgrade their own capabilities according to the optics model, and so that to make themselves digital ready. Right now, the optics report is still having its Chinese version only. But right now, I think the KPMG team, they're going through a round of translation and would be available very, very soon with its English version. So I hope that the audience will stay tuned for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ma. I'm sure that the optics report contains a lot of valuable information. I think Fiscal will make it an extra bonus by sharing this report with all the people who signed up for this event today. As we're running out of time, I'm going to ask my last question, which is also the question I collected from the audience. By the way, for this conference, there are more than 300 people from 23 countries across 15 industries signed up for this event. It's a great success. So a lot of them are from the Greater Bay Area and Southeast Asia. Some of them are interested in knowing what are the collaboration opportunities between your organization and businesses in other countries across South Asia and beyond. So I'd like to start with Ms. Gao.
Okay, just like, as I mentioned, in China, there are different situations for every companies. Especially in southern China, where I'm located in, there are several huge business opportunities, including the Great Bay Area Initiative and the Shenzhen Demonstration Area Initiative. Four ministries and the commissions of central government have released policies that aims at utilizing finance to support the development of GBA. Now, all of them involve development plans for FinTech. Our firm actively collaborates with the government and the large financial institutions to provide strategy and the implementation services. And I believe that there will be lots of opportunities in assisting everyone to enter the Chinese market. Also, you should pay attention to opportunities that relate to the Hainan Free Trade Island. We are conducting deep-level collaboration with the government to help introduce foreign financial institutions and the construction of finance-related markets in Hainan. Due to the time constraint, I will not elaborate much here. If you are interested in these opportunities, feel free to contact us and we can schedule a meeting to discuss in great details. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ma, would you like to share your interpretation on this?
Yes, as I have mentioned earlier, we believe in what we call the 3O model, the 3 open model. But as a licensed bank, we can only operate our business in China at the moment. So in terms of markets or opportunities beyond China, right now we mostly emphasize on open innovation for now, as I have shared in my presentation earlier. And so far we have released open source versions of a lot of our core technology capabilities, and hope that they can be widely adopted both within and outside of China. A good example is the blockchain platform Fiscal Because, right? So being sponsored by the fiscal organization today, right? The event itself. So the Fiscal Because software, we actually open source in 2017 with a handful of our partners. And it has already become the top blockchain platform in China and being widely used in different industries. We also work very closely with partners in other countries in the region. Like recently, we also announced the partnership with Open Notes in Singapore to promote the use of Fiscal Because in other international markets. So back to our philosophy, we believe that collaboration will exist in multiple forms simultaneously, and we devise our strategy to work in support of this vision of a new normal, and under which I think the world will have collaboration and also competition. They will coexist at the local level, at the regional level, and also at the global level. So that's how we see the world moving forward. And we certainly at WeBank, we aspire to be a key player and also a major contributor to this new normal as well. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Mr. Chen, would you like to share your view on this?
Okay, I think Huawei is a global company, right? So we have many local offices, and we also have many different kind of customers, right? So we are quite welcome that any company or any startup, any fintech company, they like to join us, to serve our customers. So whenever you are interested, you can contact either local offices, local peoples, or our public information. I think we will welcome, warm welcome. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much. I hate to say this, but we are approaching to the end of this conference. I feel very grateful to hear these insightful views from our great speakers. Thank you all very much again. To our dear audience, thank you all for your time and attention today. I know many of you are still yearning for more. I'd like to let you know that the webinar today is just the first round of the webinar series under the topic Fighting COVID-19 with FinTech. Let's look forward to the next one. See you all next time.